Leviticus chapter 15. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, and you shall say to them, A man in whomever should have a flow from out of his body, his flow is unclean. And this is the law of his uncleanness: flowing semen from out of his body, from out of the flow, in which his body concocted, his uncleanness is through this flow in him. Every bed upon whichever he should go to bed upon it, the one having a seminal emission is unclean. And every item upon whichever he should sit upon it, the one having a seminal emission, is unclean. And a man whoever should touch his bed shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. And the one sitting down upon the item, upon whatever the one having a seminal emission should sit upon it, shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. And the one touching the flesh of the one having a seminal emission shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and will be unclean until evening. And if the one having a seminal emission should salivate upon one that is clean, that person shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and will be unclean until evening. And every saddle upon which the one having a seminal emission should mount upon it will be unclean until evening. And every one touching from all as much as might be underneath him will be unclean until evening. And the one lifting them shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and will be unclean until evening. And of as many as should touch the one having a seminal emission, and his hands have not been washed in water, he shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and he will be unclean until evening. And an earthenware item of whichever the one having a seminal emission should have touched shall be broken. And every wooden item shall be washed in water, and it will be clean. And if the one having a seminal emission should be cleansed from out of his flow, then he shall count out to himself 7 days for his cleansing, and shall wash his garments, and bathe his body in living water, and he will be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to himself 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and shall bring them before the Lord to the doors of the tent of the testimony, and shall give them to the priest. And the priest shall offer them, one for a sin offering, and one for a whole burnt offering. And the priest shall atone for him before the Lord for his flow. And a man who should come forth from his marriage bed of issuing semen, even shall bathe in water all his body, and will be unclean until evening. And every garment, and every skin upon whichever might be upon it of the marriage bed of semen, that it shall be washed in water, and will be unclean until evening. And a wife, if a husband should have gone to bed with her in a marriage bed of semen, even they shall bathe in water, and they will be unclean until evening. And a woman whoever might be flowing blood, when her flow shall be in her body, 7 days she will be in her menstruation. Every one touching her will be unclean until evening, and everything upon whatever she should lay herself upon it in her menstruation, it will be unclean. And everything upon whatever she should sit herself upon it, it will be unclean. And all whoever should touch her bed shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and will be unclean until evening. And every one touching any item upon whichever she should sit upon it shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. And if, being in her bed, or upon the item of whichever she should sit upon it, in its touching her, it shall be unclean until evening. And if anyone should bed down in her bed with her, and her uncleanness should be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days. And every bed upon whichever he should go to bed upon it shall be unclean. And a woman, if she should flow a flow of blood many days, not in the time of her menstruation, and if also it should flow after her menstruation, all the days of the flow of her uncleanness shall be just as the days of her menstruation, she shall be unclean. and every bed upon whichever she should go to bed upon it, all the days of her flow, will be to her as the bed of her menstruation. And every item upon whichever she should sit upon it shall be unclean, according to the uncleanness of her menstruation. And every man touching her shall be unclean, and shall wash his garments, and shall bathe in water, and shall be unclean until evening. But if she should be cleansed from her flow, then she shall count out to herself 7 days, and after this she shall be cleansed. And the 8th day she shall take for herself 2 turtle doves, or 2 young pigeons, and shall bring them to the priest unto the door of the tent of the testimony. And the priest shall offer the one for a sin offering, and the one for a whole burnt offering. And the priest shall atone for her before the Lord of the flow of her uncleanness. And you shall make the sons of Israel reverent because of their uncleannesses, and they shall not die on account of their uncleanness, in their defiling my tent among them. This is the law of the one having a seminal emission, even if one should come forth from his marriage bed of semen, so as to be defiled by it, and the one hemorrhaging in her menstruation, and the one having a seminal emission in his flow to the male or the female, and to the husband if he should go to bed with one sitting apart.